For this video, I had originally planned on showing you how I'm mapping out the food forest. So I sent up the drone to show you where I'm putting the guilds, how I'm drawing out the walkways, and which trees will go where. However, as with many well-intentioned plans, this didn't quite work out. The wind picked up my drone, and try as I might, I could not avoid running into the huge pine tree next to me. So, while my drone is being fixed, I've decided instead to show you how I'm actually building my guilds. Let's go. So as you can see, while the drone is being repaired, we're still gonna get on with it. There's a lot of construction going on the house over there that I'll show you guys in a minute. But we're actually, the chickens just rolled up in front of me. So we rented a tiller, right? Because we started doing our first 2 guilds by hand and it went really, really well. Of course, there's a lot of work with just a shovel with all the brush that we have here. So we started doing the first 2 guilds by hand, and we learned the hard way that we were gonna need a tiller. So we rented a tiller earlier today, and Alan is currently out there tilling up. I don't know if you can hear behind me, but it's super loud. He's out there tilling up the entire space as much as we can manage while we have the rental for the tiller. And then I am coming behind him and planting out all of these extra fruit trees that we got. So we got a whole bunch of like actual trees, right? And we got a whole bunch of bushes. So we got some blackberry, we got some blueberry. I wanted to get some red raspberry. That does not grow very well in this area, so I'm contenting myself with the blackberry for now and the blueberries. It is currently kind of like the middle of winter here, so perfect time to plant out some fruit trees. We got some plum, apple, peach, pear. We have a whole bunch of our moringa. We have a whole bunch of other things that I had grown specifically to put in this space. That is what we're doing today. And then on top of that, in the future, right, like a week or 2 from now, we're gonna come back and start all of our food forest seeds. All right, so I got a whole bunch of seeds specifically for the food forest, things that are perennials, things that, you know, attract a lot of pollinators. We are going to come over here, set up a little miniature greenhouse and start all of those seeds here on this property at the same time as I'm starting my seeds for the garden in our backyard. So it is starting to rain. I am going to set the camera up hopefully under some shade or something so that, you know, maybe the trees can protect it from the water, and show you guys exactly what we're doing. Okay, so once I decided to put the fruit tree guild in this space, it's a good little space here. We have some pine trees, which would be good for the blueberries that I'm gonna plant here. But other than that, it's not too shaded. It's kind of out of the way, and it has a nice little walking path just by default. So I started removing some of these saw palmettos that I didn't want in the space. Any of these like larger roots I tried to get rid of before I came in with the rake to clear out the rest of the debris. So I took my hori knife and just tried to cut out some of these larger type roots and clear the space. Next, I came in with a rake and just started raking up all the pine needles, any grass clippings, anything that had been left over from the tiller, right? Alan just grabbed the tiller and went through this entire space. So I basically just tried to clear up all of the debris that was left over to try to get to the bare dirt. So we have pretty good soil. Thankfully, we have pretty good soil in this area where we've decided to plant all of our fruit tree guilds, but I don't want all of that mixed in. I want to be able to start with a clean slate. So if I just had grass that wasn't super invasive, I would have probably just left it in place and not tilled and not done anything. But we have tons of muscadine grapevines growing all over the property. We have tons of saw palmettos. We have tons of other really, really hard to get rid of roots and quote unquote weeds and all of that. So I just wanted to make sure I was starting with as clean of a canvas as possible. After I got mostly everything cleared, I started digging the holes for where our larger fruit trees are going to go. Now, I want to make sure that I get everything in the soil first. That can't be planted out in just a few inches, right? So our plum trees, our peach trees, apple trees, things like that need a lot more space to grow underneath the soil. The top layer of the soil, where the cardboard and the compost goes, that's only going to be a few inches. So I can plant out seeds and I can plant out maybe some strawberries and herbs in that space. But for the larger fruit trees, I want to make sure I have all of the holes dug so I can put that in as our first step. Now, in my case, digging the actual holes was quite a challenge because we have so many established plants and established trees in this space. So I did end up having to cut out some of the roots of those muscadine vines, We do love having muscadine vines on the property. However, the majority of these are actually male muscadine vines and they don't produce anything. So eventually we will plant out some native grape species and some other cultivars, but for right now, those muscadine vines gotta go. Once you have all of the holes dug up that you need for your fruit trees and your larger bushes, now's a good time to come in with some compost and any fertilizer you're going to use. I'm just using cow manure compost and then actually planting the trees in the hole. So for this guild, I am planting a plum tree and a peach tree. The one that you can see here is a plum tree. It is a methley plum, which is supposed to be good for my area, and then I am backfilling the hole. You can see I only added a little bit of compost and then I'm adding the rest of this native soil because I don't want the plant to get super comfy in the hole and not expand out. I want to make sure that the plant gets accustomed to the soil that's already there, and that way it can spread its roots even further. The next tree I'm planting in this guild is a peach tree. So this is a peach cultivar that actually grows pretty well in my area. It is a bare root plant just like the other one, and then you can see that I'm trying to just make sure that they are pretty straight up, pretty evenly centered, and they're not leaning or anything like that. You just want to make sure that everything that you're actually planting in your food forest grows in your area, because if not, it will not survive. All right, so we got the plum tree right here, and then right behind it over here we have one of our peach trees. Now this is a Florida King peach tree, so that will grow in this area pretty well. And then I have I think it's called a methley plum. One of the biggest things you're going to want to check for when you're planting out a fruit tree guild is that everything in the guild grows in this area, right? So we have gotten everything specific to Florida Zone 9B. Can't really see it, but it's right there. So what I'm going to do now, right, is plant out everything else that I can't just plant in compost, right? So I'm going to add some of our cardboard stack. You can see here we have like all of our supplies laid out here. The rest of our fruit trees are here just waiting to be planted. Alan's back there continuing to till, and so I have a whole bunch of cardboard right here. I normally would put down all of the cardboard right now and put down compost and then just let everything kind of grow in the compost. However, I have a whole bunch of blueberry bushes right here. So I have some blackberries, but what's going in this space is blueberry, which are these ones. So I am going to pot up some of our sunshine blue blueberry. Again, this grows really well in this area. And they're already starting to flower, but as you can see, I've kind of picked off all of the flowers here so that the roots can get established. This one in particular, which is always fun to look for, this one in particular has like extra little suckers growing, so I will probably take some of these, and that's an extra little blueberry bush that I can plant out. So I am going to pot these, or rather, I'm going to plant these first, all right? So in between the fruit trees, normally I do one fruit tree per guild. That's what I've been doing, right, with this one. That's our lemon guild, and that's our pomegranate guild right there. But this one, because it's such a short or such a narrow space, I'm going to do a very long guild. So it's going to kind of be like a little banana guild. In between, I'm going to have some blueberries, and then maybe to the side, I'll do some flowers or something like that. So I'm going to plant out anything that needs to go deep in the ground that I can't just like put the seeds in compost. That is going to go right there, right there. I'll probably do maybe 3 or 4 blueberry bushes in this space. Now, one thing I do want to mention, whenever you're planting something that has established roots, make sure that you are kind of like ruffling up those roots before you put them in. You don't want them to stay root bound and then just continue circling around in your planting hole. You want to make sure that the roots get a chance to actually grow out, so just make sure you ruffle them up a little bit before you actually plant out whatever you are planting. All right, so I got my blueberries planted, right? So I got my one blueberry there. A couple feet away is my plum tree. I think this is like another 3, almost 4 feet away. That's another blueberry plant, and then another one right here in between. Then I have my peach tree followed by the last blueberry. Over here on the other side of the walkway, where that one stake is right there in the middle of the frame, you can see is my my Suriname cherry that Alan actually ran over. So that's why I have it staked so he doesn't run over it again with the tiller. And then right here, if I turn, that's my lemon tree guild. You can see I started pouring some like wood shavings, which is actually the fill that came with my bare root fruit trees. And I have some like parsley and some herbs that are kind of little still. You can't really see them there. But I also have that one guild in the back. Next up, for the one I'm standing in right here, I am going to go ahead and put down a layer of cardboard so that all of these weeds and everything we just tilled doesn't come back up in the soil and poke its head out. And then I'm going to pour compost over everything and make a pretty little border so I can see where everything is, just for, you know, aesthetics. You don't have to put a border around it if you really don't want to, but I like the way it looks when everything has like this really pretty border. Of course, once it's all cleaned up and there's not a mess everywhere, it'll look much prettier. But I have an entire stack of bricks back there behind the tiller that we got for free, so might as well, why not? And then of course, any extra weeds or pieces of blueberry cuttings that I removed flowers from, I went ahead and gave to the chickens, and they seemed overall pretty happy with that. Lastly, don't forget to water in all of your newly planted out trees and shrubs and bushes and everything that you've just put in place, and then of course step back to admire your beautiful new fruit tree guild. That wraps up this video. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed creating it, and I will see you guys in the next one.